I set down the ledger, press my palm flat against the kitchen table, and look up slowly, eyes steady, voice quieter than a threat. Baby, I want you to understand something. I have never, not once in 73 years, forgotten a single penny that passed through these hands. I tap the page twice. The numbers don't lie. They never do. Not one. That's the thing people never quite understood about me. They saw the warm food on the table. They saw the open door. They saw Grandma Celeste, soft arms, sweet tea, unconditional love. And yes, all of that was real, every bit of it. But what they missed, what they always missed, was the other half of me, the half that balanced every household account to the last cent before the sun went down, the half that knew exactly what came in, exactly what went out, and exactly who owed what to whom. I am Celeste Marie Abrams, and I built this life with my bare hands. I grow up in a city that doesn't give anything away for free. Chicago in the 60s isn't kind to a black girl with ambition and no inheritance. But I have something better than money. I have discipline. I have memory. And I have a stubbornness in my bones that my mother calls a curse and I call a gift. I work my first job at 14, pressing shirts in a laundry on the South Side, and from that first crumpled dollar bill, I start a habit I never break. I write it down. Every dollar earned, every dollar spent, every dollar borrowed, and every dollar returned. I meet Raymond when I am 22. He is tall and laughing and completely hopeless with money. I love him anyway. We build something together, a real home on a real street, with a mortgage I manage and a budget I guard like a second heartbeat. We have 3 children, Darnell, Marcus, and our youngest, Janelle. I pour everything into those 3, everything. When the neighborhood gets harder, I work double shifts. When the school system fails them, I buy the books myself. When other mothers give up, I stay at that kitchen table until the homework is done and the lunches are packed, and every child in my house feels like they are worth fighting for. And then, because life is generous with its tests, I raise 3 more. My grandchildren come to me when their own parents can no longer hold the world together. Nia, Simone, and little Dre. They arrive in my house frightened and small, and I love them the same way I love everything, completely and with my eyes wide open. I am not naive. I never have been. I love with my whole heart, and I keep my ledger with my whole mind, and I see no contradiction between those 2 things. Love does not mean blind. Love means present. Love means accountable. Love means I am here, I am watching, and I am not going anywhere. But I notice things. I always notice things. Darnell drifts first, then Marcus. The opioid crisis doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on the front door and introduce itself politely. It creeps in through pain, through prescriptions, through the particular vulnerability of men who were never taught to name what was hurting inside them. I grieve that. I grieve it in ways I never speak aloud, because grief in a woman like me lives in the body, in the tightening of the jaw, in the long exhale before bed, in the way I pray differently after a certain point, not for things anymore, just for mercy. And then is Janelle. Janelle is different. Janelle doesn't drift, she runs. One morning she is here, and the next she is not, and the door she leaves through doesn't swing back. She builds a life somewhere that isn't near me, and I tell myself that's okay. Children leave. That's what children are supposed to do. I make my peace with the distance. What I don't make peace with, what I write down very quietly in the back pages of my ledger, are the phone calls. Not the calls to ask how I'm sleeping, not the calls to hear my voice or share a memory, or ask whether Nia has grown any taller. The calls from Janelle come in one shape and one shape only. A number, a need, a story that changes slightly each time, but always arrives at the same destination. I need a little help, Mama, just to get through the month. And I help because I am her mother, because love is what I do. But I write it down. Every single time I write it down, because that's also what I do. I don't know yet in those early years of Janelle's calls what the full picture will look like. I don't know that the amount will keep climbing, or that the repayments will keep shrinking, or that one day I'll be sitting in a hospital room with a diagnosis that rearranges everything, and my phone will ring, and it will be her, and she will not ask how I feel. But I don't know that yet. What I know in this kitchen, in this house, with my ledger open in front of me, and the smell of something good on the stove, and the sound of my grandchildren somewhere down the hall, what I know is this: I have built something real. I have loved people who were hard to love. I have held this family together with discipline and devotion and a memory like a steel trap. And I am not finished yet. Not even close. If you're finding yourself pulled into this story, good. Stay with me. Subscribe because what's coming next will make your jaw drop. I promise you, I am just getting started.
The diagnosis arrives on a Tuesday. Isn't that something? Not a Monday, which would at least feel dramatic, not a Friday, which might give it the weight of an ending. A Tuesday, ordinary and unremarkable the way the worst news always seems to be. I am sitting in a beige office across from a doctor whose name I will remember for the rest of my life, and he is telling me something about cells and stages and treatment options, and I am nodding, steady, composed, present, while somewhere behind my sternum, something very quiet shifts. Cancer. I sit with that word for exactly 48 hours before I tell anyone. That is my right. This is my body, my life, my ledger. I decide when the information gets shared and who receives it first. I tell Raymond on a Thursday morning over coffee. I watch his face do the thing faces do when the earth moves beneath them, a split second of free fall before the mask snaps back into place. He reaches across the table and covers my hand with his. Neither of us speaks for a long time. I squeeze his hand once, firm, and look him in the eye. We are not falling apart over this, Raymond, you hear me? We handle it the same way we handle everything. He nods, but his eyes are doing something his face is trying not to do. Together, and on our feet. I begin treatment. Chemotherapy is a particular kind of violence, slow, cumulative, designed to destroy something in order to save something. I don't complain. That's not false bravery, that's just who I am. I have been tired before. I have been in pain before. I get through it the same way I get through everything. One day, one task, one breath at a time. I tell the children. Darnell and Marcus, through the fog of their own battles, find moments of clarity that surprise me. They call more. They show up when they can. It isn't everything, but it is something. And I receive it for what it is. Love doing its best inside a broken container. Naya, Simone, and Dre become my shadows. My grandchildren orbit me with a fierce protectiveness that fills my chest with something so warm I can barely name it. They drive me to appointments. They sit with me through the bad afternoons. They don't treat me like I am fragile. They treat me like I am theirs. And then Janelle calls. I answer on the second ring, because I always answer. Her voice comes through the phone already shaped around what she needs. I recognize the architecture of it immediately, the particular rhythm of a request being dressed up as a conversation. There is a brief, thin layer of, "How are you feeling, Mama?" before the real subject surfaces, like something that was always going to rise. I close my eyes, keep my voice level, smooth. "Say what you called to say, Janelle." Silence on the line. Then, "I just need a little help getting through the month. Things are tight right now." Things are tight. I am in the middle of chemotherapy. I have not slept through the night in 11 days. My body is running a war inside itself, and my daughter is calling to tell me things are tight. I feel something move through me in that moment. Not anger exactly. Anger is hot and loud and quick. This is something older and heavier and very, very clear. I look across the kitchen at my ledger sitting on the counter where it always sits, and I think about the column of numbers I have been quietly adding to for years, the amounts, the dates, the promises made in that same voice, soft and practiced, that have never quite become repayments. I help her anyway, because she is my child. But something in me, some final, patient mechanism makes a decision in that moment. Quiet, final, unshakable. The calls continue over the following months. They follow a rhythm I could set a clock to now. A few weeks of silence, then the ringtone, then the voice, then the number. I answer every time. I help when I can, and every time, without fail, I open my ledger and I write it down. What I don't tell Janelle, what I don't tell anyone, is that I have started meeting with my attorney. I sit across the desk from him, folder open, hands folded, voice completely calm. I want everything documented, every asset, every account, every outstanding debt, every single one. He looks up over his glasses. "Every debt, Mrs. Abrams? Even small ones?" I hold his gaze without blinking, especially the small ones. My health rises and falls like weather. There are good weeks and there are weeks that I spend mostly in bed, watching the light move across the ceiling and thinking about everything I have built and everyone I have loved and all the ways this life has been so much harder and so much richer than I ever expected. I think about Naya reading to me from the armchair in the corner. I think about little Dre falling asleep on the foot of my bed. I think about Raymond's hand at the kitchen table. I think about my ledger. The calls from Janelle don't slow down as I get sicker. If anything, they come more frequently now, as if proximity to an ending makes the urgency more acute. She asks about my health in the new calls. She asks about how I'm feeling, how the treatment is going, what the doctors are saying. And beneath those questions, like a current under still water, I feel the real question she is circling but never quite lands on. It makes something in me go very, very still. I finish my conversation with my attorney on a Wednesday afternoon. I sign the papers with a steady hand. I ride home through the city in the late afternoon light, watching Chicago cast the windows, and I feel, for the first time in a long time, completely at peace, because everything is in order. Every single cent. I thought perhaps that was the end of it, that signing those papers meant I could finally rest. Then my phone. I pick up the phone, read the message slowly, set it back down on the nightstand, face up, so the words keep staring at the ceiling. She heard. I close my eyes, breathe once. When I open them, something in my expression has settled into a place beyond anger, beyond hurt, into something that can only be called certainty. Of course she did. Janelle has heard through the particular underground current that runs through every family that I am not getting better. Not this time. The treatments have done what they can do, and the doctors are now using different language, softer language, the kind that holds a door open instead of promising what's behind it. I know what it means. I have always been fluent in what people are actually saying beneath what they say. The call comes the next morning, early, Before Raymond is awake, before the house stirs, before the city outside my window has fully committed to the day. I am already sitting up in bed because Sleep and I have reached a mutual agreement to spend less time together. I see her name on the screen, and I answer. Her voice is different this time. The architecture has changed. The soft preamble, the circling, the careful approach, it's gone. What replaces it is something rawer and less controlled, and for a single suspended moment, I think maybe this is it. Maybe this is the call where she just talks to me, her mother, just talks. I keep my voice gentle, open. Janelle, baby? Pause. Mama, I need to know about the will, about what you've decided. There it is. I don't answer right away. I let the silence sit between us on the line, the way you let something breathe before you respond to it. I think about the little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap during thunderstorms. I think about the teenager who had a laugh that could fill a room from one end to another. I think about all the versions of Janelle that existed before the version on this phone, and I grieve them, quietly and completely, the way I have been grieving them for years. My voice comes out calm, measured, carrying the full weight of everything I know and everything I have decided. Everything is taken care of, Janelle. You don't need to worry yourself. A beat. That's all I have to say about it. I end the call. I sit with the quiet. Outside the window, Chicago is waking up, slow and gray and indifferent and beautiful, and I feel the particular peace of a woman who has handled her business, who loved without losing herself, who is leaving this world the same way she lived in it, with every column balanced and every line accounted for. My attorney reads the will 6 weeks after I am gone. I know what it says because I wrote every word of it myself, sitting at my kitchen table with my ledger open beside me like a co-author. Raymond receives the house, our house, the one we built together, the one that holds 40 years of morning coffee and difficult conversations, and the particular smell of a life genuinely lived. Darnell and Marcus each receive a portion, not because they have earned it in the traditional sense, but because they are my sons, and I love them, and love doesn't require a clean record. Nia, Simone, and Dre receive theirs, carefully structured, protected, set aside for futures I will not get to watch, but can still, even now, shape. Everyone in my family, every soul I claimed, and every soul that claimed me. And then the attorney reaches Janelle's name. I imagine the room in that moment. I imagine Janelle sitting forward slightly, the way a person does when they believe something is coming to them. I imagine the specific quality of her waiting, tense, hungry, finally about to receive what she has been circling for years. The attorney reads the line I wrote. Janelle, you still owe me $14. I want to tell you what that $14 is. It isn't symbolic. It isn't an accident. It is the precise, mathematically accurate remainder of every dollar Janelle borrowed and never returned, tallied to the final cent, reduced over years of careful accounting to a number so small that it could make a person laugh, or make a person understand, finally and completely, that the woman they underestimated had been watching every single moment. $14. Not 15, not 10, 14, because I do not round, I do not approximate, I do not forgive debts I haven't chosen to forgive, and I do not leave this world with my ledger out of balance. I hear, through Raymond, through Nia, through the reliable current of family information, that Janelle does not take it well, that she makes calls, that she uses words like unfair and cruel and vindictive, that she expects someone to agree with her. Nobody does, because everyone who knows me, everyone who sat at my table and ate my food and slept under my roof and felt the particular weight of my love, knows exactly what that line in the will is. It is not cruelty, it is not pettiness, it is the last entry in a ledger kept by a woman who never once forgot a single penny that passed through her hands. It is my final word, and I always get the last word. I leave behind a husband who knows what real partnership costs and pays it gladly. I leave behind grandchildren who know their worth and are building lives I would be proud of. I leave behind sons who are still fighting their battles, and I pray for them, from wherever I am now, the way I always prayed. Not for things, just for mercy. And I leave behind one daughter, somewhere in this city, in a life I couldn't reach her in, with a number in her head she will never quite shake loose. $14. Count it right, baby. I always did. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. There is something I want you to carry with you, wherever you're watching from. Love and accountability are not opposites. The strongest love I ever gave was the kind that kept its eyes open, that saw clearly, felt deeply, and still showed up every single morning. I never stopped loving any of my children, not one. But love doesn't mean you surrender your dignity, or close your ledger, or pretend you didn't see what you saw. Real love is honest. Real love is present, and real love, the kind worth passing on, knows exactly what it is owed and exactly what it has already given. I lived that truth every day of my life. I hope you find the courage to live yours. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from.